Florida sun, dreams took flight, chasing glory day and night. City streets and open fields, where young hearts refuse to yield. And when the lights began to fade and silence filled the plans we made, a deeper truth began to show in fertile ground where hope could grow. From trials to triumph, we'll break the chains. Through sweat and struggle, we'll make our gains. Our darkest hour precedes the dawn. In perseverance, we're reborn. From trials to triumph, we transcend, finding purpose in the journey's end.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Freddie Stevenson from Trials to Triumph, and I hope that you guys like the new intro. Man, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think about it, man. We wanted to switch some things up for you guys, but we appreciate everybody that supported last week's episode with Zach Hiller. But we got a very special episode today on behalf of Father's Day. Man, shout out to all the fathers out there in the world, man. You truly appreciate it. The work that you do, all the sacrifice that you make, do not go overlooked. But today we have Dexter Carter and Devin Carter joining us on the show. Dexter Carter was a former FSU star, first-round draft pick, and Super Bowl champion for the 49ers. His son, Devin Carter, was one of the top recruits in the country and is looking to create his own legacy at Florida State. Before we get into the episode, I would love to take the time out to thank our sponsors, Howell Buchanan, Strong, and Game Changer Sports Recovery. I do want to let you guys know that Devin was experiencing a few connection issues during our interview. So later on in the interview, you guys will see some adjustments that we made. The audio's still good, but the video was going in and out. So just bear with us there. But yeah, we wanted to do something special. We bring you 2 dope episodes a day. We'll start off with Devin, and then we'll roll on into the episode with Dexter Carter. We appreciate everybody that supported. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And once again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Y'all be blessed. Man, what's up? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. How you feeling?
And I'm good, man. Appreciate you coming on. I don't really follow high school football that much no more, but I had a chance to watch you play in high school, so I'm excited about you being in tally with the nose for sure, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited. How you feeling now that you got up there, though?
I feel great. You got a reason to be excited, for one. And for two, it's been a good process. Deuce coming back this year really has helped me. I'm sure I would have been okay if he didn't, but it's definitely a step. I feel like I'm a step ahead of everybody just having him in the room. Coach Harris, being around him, being in the meeting room with veteran guys like Deuce, Javen Boggs, who's in his second year, people who are gamers, know how to play the game, know the game inside and out. I was around them, so I adjusted to the speed of the game very quickly. I got used to the playbook quick. I knew my assignments, and, that's all I could ask for coming in early, getting in the playbook, getting bigger. I gained 20 pounds. So, everything's going according to plan just with the work. So, it's been going great.
Now that's what's up. I wanted to ask you, man, because your pops, Dexter Carter, he a legend at Florida State. Growing up,
Sure.
How much did his legacy impact your view of Florida State growing up?
It impacted it a lot. Him and the people that was here with him and before him. When he got here is when Florida State really started winning. They had 14 straight years, I think, in the top 4. Ain't nobody else ever did that. And the people who was with him started it and him. So being able to watch the impact they made on Florida State University, every time my dad's in Tallahassee, someone recognizes him, that's an honor to be his son and be able to continue on the legacy like I am now. And that's all I could ask for. I'm blessed, and what he did and the people who came before us, we definitely respect in today's world at Florida State. And, we're using that as motivation to uphold the standard that Florida State is supposed to, uphold.
During your recruiting process, how was it for you as far as, your pop's kind of guide and your family guide you in the process? Did he just ultimately let you make your own decision?
For sure. he had his inputs, and all his inputs weren't go to Florida State, but he gave his honest opinion about everywhere. He didn't care where I went. He told me that, and when I told him it was Florida State, of course he was happy. And but he said, "Go wherever you want to. Go where make you feel happy. Go where the coaches you feel like can put the ball in your hands, and you trust them." And I trusted Coach Norvell and Coach Harris here at Florida State. So that's what I did. I trusted my heart and trusted hard work, and now I'm at Florida State. Yeah.
You being one of the top recruits in the country, the recruiting process had a lot of moving parts. What
Yeah.
was it about Florida State that stood out to you to make you ultimately decide to come play in Tallahassee?
hmm For one, Coach Tim Harris, I've known him since he was coaching at Booker T. Washington in Miami. He's always been a great coach. I was close with him when he got to UCF, when he was there for a couple years. Got close with Gus Malzahn, and Coach Norvell was the realest coach I met since 8th grade. I met him in 8th grade. I came to a Florida State camp as a quarterback, and he was teaching me how to throw a football. And he ain't give me the offer until I earned it, and I, you know, could uphold the standard of having an offer from Florida State. And it was my 10th grade year. Came to a football camp. It was in Doak Campbell Stadium, and I did what I always do, and he offered me in the middle of the field after. And ever since then, he's always held down his word. He's never lied. He's always told me the real, and it's been the same since I got here. He's been on me still, keeps the standard the same. It wasn't nothing different in the recruiting process. It's been the same, Norvell. So that's all I could ask for out of a coach.
We would like to thank Howell, Buchanan Strong for sponsoring today's episode of Trials of Triumph. They are a healthcare licensing and professional licensed law firm headquartered in the capital city of Tallahassee, with offices located throughout the state, assisting those with healthcare regulation compliance, healthcare transactions, and other healthcare defense. If you're facing legal problems, you're going to need a strategic defense. Howell, Buchanan Strong is Florida's trusted law firm to help you with your licensing issues. And you ultimately decided to early enroll at Florida State in the spring.
Right.
Take part in spring ball. What was spring like for you? And did you have you had the welcome to college football moment yet?
Nah, I ain't gonna lie for sure. I definitely had it. First day of pass. So the first like three practices, first three practices were shells. We got the little spiders on. They're not pads, but they're padded under. And those days went good. One-on-ones, I did good. I went undefeated the first day. Other days, it was good competition back and forth all across the board. And the fourth practice, we came back from spring break, and we are in all uniform, full gear, and it's team period, first period of the day. I'm lined up on the right side. It's a screenplay to me, so I'm like, okay, cool, say less. And I run the total screen. I catch it. Hey, I don't know which twin it was, but it was one on right there, and he smacked me, and my helmet came up, bust my lip. My shit was bleeding for like the rest of the practice. It didn't take a week to heal. Man, that was my welcome to college football moment for sure. I ain't gonna lie.
Now we all got them though, man. You look back at them,
Yeah,
man. Once you at the end of your career, it's funny when you look back at it. But we all got them, no matter how. Because it's Florida State, man. Top
yeah,
players from all across the country. So everybody gonna get got. I'm sure you got
yeah.
those stories, embarrassing somebody else. On the other
All right,
side, that's a baller. We all
all right,
gonna get got. Nah,
yeah.
that jump.
But I
Funny.
adjusted to the speed quickly though. I definitely seen how quick it moves whenever he hit me. But after that, third practice of pass, I got used to the speed of it, and we was competing, and we got to have some good days against the defense. Defense got some good days against us, but it was great competition on the outside and the interior also. So it was a good spring.
Man, the media and the coaches raved about how well you looked in spring, how well you performed.
Yes,
What
sir.
were the goals that you wanted to accomplish during the spring?
First of all, get the physical aspect of the game, get my weight up, get stronger, be in the weight room. Don't just be in there whenever it's mandatory. Get some extra hours in. That's how you separate yourself. And knowing the playbook, not having any questions when I see the signs, just line up, be the first person line up, and get ready to run the play. So that was my main, focus, just getting bigger and adjusting to the speed of the game for sure and being in the playbook. Make sure I know my assignment and know the assignments of others who's next to me.
Off camera, man, you talked about it. You said you put on 20 pounds of muscle. Kind
Yeah,
of, now that you're transitioning to this level, but there are players that are going to aspire to play at this level, man. Talk to
right,
them about the importance of nutrition, taking care of the body, all of those things that you've had to do just to be able to put on 20 pounds, and not just put on 20 pounds, do it the
right.
right way so that you can still play at a high level.
Yeah. I didn't even realize until I got here. The first week I realized how important hydration is, what you eat is, what you put in your body is what you're gonna get out. And I was just thinking about it. I wish I would have started in the weight room earlier, like ninth grade. Of course I thought I had time. I wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% in the weight room like I should have been. 10th grade was the same. Every year I built love for the weight room, but it wasn't nowhere where it needed to be. And until I got here, I realized this a job. You got to do it, and there's no question about it. So as soon as you start taking advantage of the weight room, diet, drinking, hydrating, make sure you hydrate all that stuff. The quicker your body is gonna respond better. You're gonna feel better. You're not gonna get tired as quick. A lot of things play into, just drinking the right stuff, eating the right stuff, and not just putting on junk weight. Being in the weight room, you got to condition with it also. You can't get to 182 pounds and just be sloppy. So, working out while you're eating and doing all this stuff plays a big part. So I say start as early as you can. Start now. I wish I started earlier. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Man, earlier you were talking about the impact that Deuce has had on you. Kind of talk about some of the things that you've learned from Deuce, him being one of the vets in the room now.
Mhm. First off, you got to spend way more time in the building than the other people. In the springtime, he got there at 5:30. If we had workouts at 7 a.m., and I was getting there, I ain't gonna lie, 5:45. I was there 10 minutes after him. But he texted me one day. He was like, I'm gonna be at the facility at this time," and I was like, "All right, cool, I'll be there." And ever since then, pre workouts, pre conditioning, we're in the weight room, getting our hips right, stretching, mobility, all that stuff to get our body prepared for what's to come that day. And it builds up over time, and it really helped my body, I say. And he's encouraged me to be in the training room after practice in the mornings, and it really do help. It make your body feel way better, and you perform when your body feels better. So that right there alone has been a big part of that. But just teaching me how to watch film, that's a big part of it. With our offense, you're gonna have to be able to read the defense pre-snap and determine what you're doing within the play. So that's a big thing for me, being able to read the defense. And yeah, dude's been a big role model for us. I think he's helped everybody in the room. He's a smart guy. He shows you exactly what you should do. He's in the building as much as he can be. He's a good person overall.
And I know in spring you guys had a competitive quarterback battle during the spring. I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you, when you're going through your process as a receiver, how much does it help you, trying to adjust to the different things that both guys bring to the table? Because it's ball. You never know what's going to happen. How do you
Right,
think it's helped your game being able to get on the field and get reps with both guys?
right. It's been great. Them two and the other two quarterbacks that we brought in before practice even started in the spring, January after workouts, we was out there on Tuesdays and Thursdays throwing all the plays, the routes, getting our timing down with every quarterback. It don't matter how it shake out. All of them are there to compete, and they knew that. And whoever won the job, they were going to support them, and that was the same with us. So we worked with every quarterback. And when Ashton was announced the starting quarterback, I mean, of course, the focus was the ones go with Ashton, but we all still working, and everybody's got a good opportunity to have a role on this team this year. So we just think about that part of it, and it's been great. I mean, our job is really just to get open and catch the ball. So the quarterback matters to the team, but it's get open, catch the ball either way. So, but both quarterbacks are great, and it was a good competition. And I like the chemistry they got together. One throwing down on each other.
Y'all got a good combination of vet guys in the receiver room, and then you got a lot of young talent that's exciting, not just in the receiving room, running back room, across the board on the offense.
Yeah, facts.
Looking at things, having an opportunity to be there in the spring and get to know the team a bit. What can ACC teams expect to see from y'all this year as offense?
Explosive, a lot of touchdowns. Gonna be moving the ball down the field. We're gonna make sure our run game, is stable, and then we're gonna toss the rock whenever coach asks us to, and running back's gonna have touchdowns. Quarterback's gonna just be making plays. He's in the offense to where it's his offense. He takes control, whether it's with his legs or through the air. I think we're gonna have an explosive offense, and we're gonna score a lot of touchdowns this year. We got a lot of explosive players, and that's gonna lead to an explosive offense. We just got to be, locked in, and we got to work hard and stay focused.
Man, I wanted that because you were number one in high school. What
Yes,
was it
sir.
to get number at Florida State? Did you try to get one, or kind of tell me the story behind that?
Truth be told, I never talked to Florida State about a number in recruiting process. That just wasn't on my mind. I didn't talk to anybody about a number. And when I got here, they know I wore one, so I was like, if I get one, cool. If not, then I'm gonna rock out anyways. So they gave me 11. It's double one, so I was like, okay, cool, that's smooth. I'm not gonna say nothing about it. So, but whenever the JUCO transfer quarterback came in, Malachi came in, I realized why they didn't give one to anybody because he had it, I guess, waiting. So, but I think he's gonna live up to the number. So no hard feelings about a number. 11 is it's gonna look good in the end zone.
Yeah, I like it. Man, nah, I like the approach, man. Just it's a new level understanding people that are watch as young athletes, man. It's always proving yourself over and over again, keeping that chip on your
Mhm.
shoulder, and like you got the right perspective
It's
about it.
never enough.
Yeah, nah, yeah. I wanted to ask you, man, with all the success that you had in high school, everything that you did, do you have a favorite moment from a game in high school?
I do. It was 2023, my 10th grade year. I'm playing in the state championship game with COVID. I got COVID 2 days before the game, so I'm at the peak. I'm at the worst you gonna feel with COVID. And I go into the game, got a ski mask on, and we catch a pick right before halftime, and we on like the 40-yard line. They call it go ball, and I catch go ball. We score right before half, then we come out score after that. That's probably my favorite moment, scoring in the Atlanta Falcons Stadium. That was a cool moment, and I was young.
But you had in 7-on-7, you played on Cam Newton's team. Kind of, we see a lot of the stuff on. I know I got a chance to watch him when I was younger. You see a lot of stuff what he doing in media. But who was
Mhm.
the Cam Newton behind the scenes? Like getting coached by him, getting to know him behind the scenes. Who's Cam Newton behind the scenes that most people wouldn't know things about him?
Yeah. He's on you like you're his high school football team or his kids. If you can't play on his team and you not disciplined. We work out with him. Uh, we got about 5 days where everybody comes to Atlanta, and he puts you through the worst workouts, but you also do like things to help like the community. You do things to help the community, and then you got workouts with him, and his workouts are like no other. So that aspect of it, you never get from a 7-on-7 coach. And Cam, he pours into us like we're his kids, and he treats us like that. We go to his house, we just kick it with him. He's just another person, with his own personality. He's exactly who you see on camera, just chilling in the house. So it was good being around Cam like that. I think he got into a mode I never been in. He got me to a mode I never been in for sure. And I appreciate him for what he did. And he definitely worked us. So we were more than his 7-on-17. He cared about our craft and our future, not just playing on Sundays and Saturdays.
With the legacy that your pops left behind at the collegiate level and playing in the pros, having a lot of big time moments where he delivered. When you
Hmm.
when you look back at his career, man, I asked you about your favorite moment
Yeah.
from high school. What's a play that stands out to you when you look back at your pop's career?
Um. Hmm. I say one of his Monday night football runs with the 49ers. He got the ball outside zone. He turned it up the left sideline and took off. He put his hands up like this. And he outran everybody. Everybody had an angle and he ran straight by them. That was my favorite moment he had. But at Florida State, I think it wasn't even a play. It was when he threw the flag on dude head for Miami. That was my favorite FSU moment. But yeah, when he cut up on Monday Night Football, that was my favorite in the league.
Oh, that's dope, dog.
Yeah.
With your game, man, you talked about the mentors that you have in the game, but as a receiver, are there any players that you looked at coming up or currently in the league that you try to take different things from their game and apply to yours?
Yeah, Jamar Chase, I watch a lot. His releases, he don't get touched off the line. He fights through physical contact with the DB, and he got strong hands. So he's really the receiver you asked for, and you really attain to be. So I watch him mostly. I watch Devontae Adams release packages. He's creative with his release packages. He has a plan A and a plan B, depending on what the DB do. So them two I watch, and then I watch Justin Jefferson at the top of the route. His wiggle he got is very needed at the receiver position to manipulate the defense. So them three all together is who I watch film on and try to take notes from and add them to my game.
We talked about the legacy that your pops left behind. You growing up watching Florida State. Have
Mm-hmm.
you thought about what it's gonna feel like running out that tunnel for the first time when y'all get to line it up this year?
How though? I've been thinking about it every day. And we was running the stadium today, and at the end we sat at the top of the stadium and we were just looking like imagining just success and just celebration and I was thinking about running out the tunnel today and ain't nothing but jitters and chills and anticipation.
With everything going on with sports, it's important to unwind sometimes. We grind, all the time and put so much
Yeah.
into it as student athletes on the field, what's a hobby that you have off the field to kind of unwind and get away from the game?
Yeah. Me and my homeboys, we go bowling. We've been about 3 times. We go to eat daily. It'd be different groups. It'll be the receiver group, or either it's the linemen, receivers, quarterbacks, whoever. We're all close knitted. So going out to eat, I like to eat. That's one of my hobbies. I'm going to golf after this. So that's a way I unease my mind and release from the stress and all that from academics and football. It's a good way to get away. And to be real, I say the sauna in the facility. I be in there just chilling, bored. And one of my new hobbies I just picked up is the Monarch machine. We just got a Monarch machine, and you don't even need nobody there. You could turn it on, put this little clip on your thing, click the button, and it's gonna shoot 6 balls at a time. All you gotta do is reload it. You can set it to where you run routes. You get the top of your route, and it's gonna throw it at the point you put it at. And it's just a good machine. That's one of my new hobbies. Just going there whenever I don't got nothing to do. Go over there, get some catches in.
We talked about the legacy that your pops, left behind. The things that he's been able to do. When it's all said and done, and you leave Florida State, get your opportunity to go to the next level. What do you want your legacy to be at Florida State?
I impacted my teammates as well as myself, or as much as myself also. I was able to help my team win championships, and I played a role in it. We was the first to do it in some years. We brought back the FSU standard on and off the field. I want to be recognized as someone that kids were looking up to. I'm looking forward to having some camps. I just want to be a mentor for the youth, pouring what I know, my knowledge into the youth. Maybe they could take something from it. Someone's always listening. So I think doing all that, I think if I do that, I'd be happy in life. Being a good mentor, good person.
I'm excited to watch you play, man. Seeing you play in high school and just knowing your pops. We got each other on social media and just seeing you have the opportunity to play at Florida State as well, man. I'm excited, man. Enjoy the journey because it go fast. Enjoy every moment, man.
That's
Every
real.
workout. All when you're
I'm
my
trying.
age, you're gonna be looking back at it like no matter how hard the workouts are, those gonna be the moments that you remember. So embrace it all, man. And I'm looking forward to watching you ball out this year.
That's real. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Much love.
For sure, that love.
As you guys know, I am currently on my journey to lose 100 pounds by the end of the year. So I partnered up with Jim Bradham of Game Changer Recovery to help me get the best results during this process. And now I'm 40 pounds down. Jim Bradham is a 25-year sports massage expert that has worked with everyone from collegiate stars to the pros. And he's realized the biggest missing link in performance isn't the workout, it's the proactive recovery system. In his book, The Sport of After Sport, Jim dives deep into the science of trigger points, the impact of the central nervous system on recovery, and how coaches and athletes can implement these daily non-negotiables for long-term success. Stop leaving your longevity to chance. Whether you need the toolkit from his book or want to bring his elite recovery workshops to your organization or schedule one-on-one consultations, Jim is the authority that you need. Get your copy of The Sport of After Sport, or you can find him on LinkedIn. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful, man. Pleasure being here, man. And thank you for having me on the show.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. We're talking a little bit behind the scenes, but just one as a note, but all the things that you've accomplished, following you from a distance, just seeing the legacy that you've left behind. I thought that was especially with Father's Day weekend coming up, the legacy that you left behind, and of course, Devin being at Florida State, having a legend on that's already created his legacy, did it all at the highest level to talk about what it took for you to get to the points that you were, and now navigating the space as a father, leading his children and watching them go on to be successful.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. And, the father thing, ironically, this show is going to be Father's Day, around Father's Day weekend. And, that means a lot to me because, and I'm not here to brag or pat myself on the back because one, I take being a parent, I take a lot of pride in that. And, um, I hadn't really shared this publicly a lot. I mean, family and friends that know me, they know, um, you know, from the time Devin was 2 and Jalen was 3, then my daughters were 7 and 8 at the time. Dex was about 10 or 11. Um, I, from for about 17 years, I was a single dad, literally raising them by myself, doing hair for the girls, taking them to cheer and dance and gymnastics and coaching, the boys, in little league football and baseball, basketball, track, all of those sports. I tried to get them involved early on, but, I understand not just the responsibility and pressure and stresses that come along with being a parent, but but doing it as a single father, whether you play in the NFL or not, it does not matter because life, is about, providing and taking care of your kids, and the stresses are the same stresses that come along with any parent in life, regardless of what your social status, financial status is. And what, I take pride in that. So when it comes to being a parent, I'm alpha, and it may rub some people the wrong way, and my kids might think I'm overreaching just from a protection perspective, but that's the way it's been. It's been that way, for their entire life, and I know that I'm when I'm raising them, it's my job to guide, protect, make sure that they, get everything that they need, from a school perspective, life perspective, extracurricular perspective. So I call it Parents' Day because even when Mother's Day comes around, I have family and friends that say, "Hey, Happy Mother's Day," you know. Uh, and I'm take about 30 seconds to say this now. Now, as of about 4 years ago, I did meet a wonderful, wonderful partner who was a single parent herself, kids in the same grade as my boys, and she just retired after 26 years in the Army, and we both were single parents, and I tell you, from the time Devin got in ninth grade, she has been at a point when I was satisfied, dying, a single parent or single, somebody that came in and had the thoughts like I had her own mind, kind of alpha too. So you got to work things out, But ironically, she grew up in the Bay Area and had no idea she was a 49er fan, so it kind of works out. So she loved them Seminoles now. So she passed the test. So but anyway, so uh now we're a team when it comes to making sure our kids get what they need. And we're all obviously excited about what Devin is doing, what Jalen embarked on this year when it came to track. And man, we just love our family and love being, parents. And I'm looking forward to this journey that Devin, is creating his own legacy while he's acknowledging and respect and proud of the legacy that I left. And that was a journey too. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but that 4-year journey of recruiting, man, it was awesome. And I was surely going to let the choice be his. And it just happened to be at Florida State.
Nah, man, appreciate you. I want to, get into that. Your time at Florida State, you ended up coming to Florida State, and you were part of those teams that ultimately led Florida State to become a powerhouse in the late '80s. What was it about Coach Bowden's culture that made you buy in and want to ultimately decide to finish your football career at Florida State?
I remember 1985, my junior year of high school. I came on a recruiting visit, and I that summer prior to that '85 season, I'm gonna be honest. Hey, I grew up in South Georgia, Baxley, Georgia. 3 red lights and a flashing light. I think they made the flashing light a stop sign now, but nonetheless, you get my point. Um, I had no idea who Florida State was. Being honest, I didn't know who Coach Bowden was. I grew up, I was a Bulldog fan. I wanted to play for Vince Dooley and them Bulldogs, but unfortunately, playing running back from Pop Warner to the pros, and at Pop Warner, by the time I got to high school, I didn't realize that I was a Herschel Walker fan, who was probably 4 years older than me, maybe 4 to 6, but nonetheless, I didn't take under consideration that Herschel was 6'1", 6'2", 230. I didn't take under consideration that at that time they had Tim Worley, Keith Henderson, Cleveland Gary. All of them were far beyond 5'9", 155 pounds. So Georgia was not going to look at Dexter Carter. But I got to Florida State by way of my mom was the reason uh, I played every sport from the time that I could uh, uh, register at the rec department. My mom made sure I played every sport. Now, my dad was not a sports fan. He was in the house, but that just wasn't him. He was more musically inclined. But nonetheless, my summer after my junior year, I spoke with my high school running back coach and head baseball coach, Keith Johnson. I said, "Hey, coach, I want to go to a football camp." Now, that statement alone doesn't seem like a big deal, but I had known no one else who. Now there was Harry Skipper who had played at University of South Carolina. He played in the Canadian League, won a couple of Grey Cups. Uh, I know he was in the Cleveland Browns training camp. I don't know if he made the team or not. So we did have somebody from Baxley, Georgia, go to the pros. Now we've got myself, Carl Simpson, Jamie Nails, Louis Tyre, man, I'm probably missing somebody who played in the NFL, but I was the first one to really come out. Well, that all came from my high school coach coming to me with one application for the summer football program, and it was Florida State. I had no idea why, but you know what? God has a way of doing things, and my mom's a God-fearing woman, and she got me to that camp, and it was about 7, 8 guys from that camp that signed with Florida State in the '86 class. And Coach Bowden offered me. And from that point on, I was a Seminole. No matter who came calling my senior year, after rushing for another 1,600 yards, I rushed for 1,800 my junior year. But I impressed them enough in that summer camp where he offered me. And going to Florida State and being a part of 1987 was my second year. Deion Sanders was in, Sammy Smith, they were going into their second year. That was the first year of the 14-year dynasty of being ranked in the top 14 in the country. Those 3 years that I was there, the first part of the dynasty, we were ranked 2 in the country, final ranking twice, and 3 once. Couldn't get past Miami. My sophomore and junior year, they were the only team to beat us. But then my senior year, we ended up um, beating Miami. But unfortunately, the very first game of the season, Brett Favre and Southern Miss, nobody knew who Brett Favre was, but they beat us in the very first game of the season in Jacksonville by a squeaker. They squeaked by us, and then Clemson got us in the second game. Then after that, we reeled off and beat 4 SEC teams, Nebraska in the Fiesta Bowl, and finished, I believe, number 2 or 3. I can't remember which one. But nonetheless, that was the start of that long legacy, and I am very, very proud to be a part of it. Be in the backfield with Sammy Smith, Victor Floyd, and Keith Ross. Edgar Bennett came in, was my roommate as a freshman, but yeah, Leroy Butler and I came in that '86 class, and I'm glad, and I believe that we both were part of the Seminole history and legacy that hopefully made you want to come and become a Seminole.
What was it like balancing playing football and track? Because you're a track star during the time as well. What was it like at that time for you balancing the two of them?
Well, it was actually easy because, believe it or not, I came into Florida State believing I was going to play football, baseball, and run track. Because baseball, my senior year, I batted 500 and got most outstanding offensive player on the baseball team. The Pirates, the Reds, and the Padres came to 95% of my baseball games in that small town of Baxley, Georgia, my senior year. And I remember they came to me after I signed with Florida State, and they said, um, if we draft you, um, would you have an issue, starting out in our farm program? Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, my man. I'm from South Georgia. The only thing I knew about farm was farming. I had no idea what farm system was, but I told them, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna play baseball at Florida State." So my intention was going to play for Mike Martin. So I go to Florida State. I play as a true freshman. I was Sammy Smith's backup for um uh my first 3 years. Sammy was our anchor on the relay team. Um he was 6'1" and a half, 6'2", 232. And I uh I that first spring, I'm sorry, I'm having a little mind fog right there, but nonetheless, that first spring after my freshman year, spring football starts. Well, it already started. Baseball begins. I go to baseball practice over with Mike Martin. I had already talked to him. He said, "Yeah, come on." I don't know why he didn't talk to Coach Bow. So I go to baseball, go to dinner at More Athletic afterwards. And Coach Bow looks at me and he says, hey, buddy, where were you today? I said, baseball. He said, "Oh no, that don't work that way." I was like, I thought I thought it was like high school. When baseball come around, you go play. When track come around, you go run. I did not know. And in high school, coaches work together. I thought that's what they did. He knew I played baseball, but it never came up in conversation. I just thought and I thought it was. So anyway, at the end of the day, I couldn't play baseball, and I ended up doing track my junior year because it didn't interfere with football. So that was the end of my baseball career until 5 years into the NFL. I did have a try with the Marlins, but that's another story for another day.
Oh, that's crazy. Like I was I could only imagine how that went. I know
Yeah,
because you would assume they would have that conversation in high school when they recruiting you, uh,
absolutely.
especially batting 500. That's you have to know at some point, man. I don't know. That one
Hey,
got me.
when I say I was that dude, I was that dude. I don't know if you know Byron Buxton. He's the center fielder for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I
Um,
know, man.
All Star. He was the second pick out of high school in 2012, out of Appling County High School, where obviously I played, and he's we're related, and if you saw him play, the only everything he does is me except bat with power. I didn't have power. I just was able to hit for base hits, but nonetheless, but that was very similar to how I played. But hey, it is what it is. I would love for my boys to have continued playing, but they got to a point to where, like many youngsters, oh, it's boring. But hey, I love. Hey, it was actually my favorite sport. The most difficult to play, but it was my favorite sport. Football just came a little easier.
Coach Bowden is known for his faith. Having the time, to play under him and coach with him. What's a piece of advice from him that you always will remember and take with you?
Well, first of all, um, after meeting Coach Bowden, my mom was sold because my mom introduced you know uh, uh me and my siblings to God, to Jesus. We were church goers. We know where our abilities came from. I remember the first scripture in Hebrew that she taught me as a youngster was, faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. So I knew that from day one. That's why my work ethic is what it is, because she said many people can recite that verse, but there's different verses in the Bible that apply to that. And one that she also didn't forget to tell me was that, I believe it's over in John, um, which I learned early on, which if you ask any coach, any player that I ever played with from Pop Warner to the pros, nobody had, they can argue their work ethic was there, but because I was small and all that, every play was 100% control, but 100% on every single level. That's because that scripture in John said, after faith is the hopeless of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. But faith without works is dead. So she made it clear to me, you can't just wait for things to fall out of the sky. You got to put forth the effort, work, be ready for the opportunity when and if it presents itself. And that's the way I approached everything in my life. That's why I got, a master's degree in business management, not because I'm smart. It's just because I applied myself and I worked hard for it. And I didn't wait for a teacher to, give me the answers. I worked hard for those answers, and I was able to go to Florida State, get 2 degrees, and reach heights in football that I don't think anybody thought I could get there because of my size.
That's. Do you have a moment from at Florida State? If you had to pick one moment from your career, this episode, the title is "Legacy of Greatness." If you had to pick one moment from your career, and I know it's gonna be tough because you got a lot of them, but if you had to pick one, which one would it be during your career?
And you know what? I could pick three alone against the University of Miami in three different games. I think I self-taught myself this, but I've been known as the Miami killer. because they may have beat us 3 out of 4 years, but I had, 3 touchdowns against them in different games. I had one key catch in 1987 where they beat us 26-25 when I made a big time catch that the next play it was a wheel route, 40 yards. I leaped first rounder Benny Blaze, Benny Blaze, that was a like fourth pick to the Dolphins, up to grab a ball, and the next play, Ronald Lewis catches a touchdown in the left corner of the end zone. Now, that made it 26-25 with about less than a minute to go. And I don't know if you ever knew this, but if we would have kicked the extra point and tied it, in hindsight, we'd have won the national championship. But we had a decision to go for the extra point or to go for two and win it. And you know what? We went for it and didn't get it. And not one player ever criticized Coach Bowden for that decision because we wanted to go for the two. No, we didn't want to tie Miami. We wanted to win. But in hindsight, if we would have kicked the extra point, we would have won the national championship. So that's a big play. My freshman year, I had a 105-yard kickoff return. It was a throwback from Keith Ross, who, bless his soul, he's no longer with us, but he came out of the end zone, 5-yard line, threw it back to me, and I took it the distance. Now, that's a big one, too. Oh, but it's got to come to my senior year. Miami had already beat us 3 years in a row. We were hell-bent on not losing to Miami this year, not this senior class. And you know what? First play of the game, Leroy Butler intercepts Gino Toretto. The second play of the game, I take it 47 yards down the sideline for 6. And then there's a tie. There's a tie for answering your question. One is that touchdown run, which I still believe, even though it was less seats in the stadium, maybe it's equal now because they took out and created that middle area now. They took away some seats, but nonetheless, arguably that was the loudest that stadium has ever been because you got Miami in town. You got Leroy Butler, who just intercepted, first play of the game. Then you got that second play, I take it for 6. Now, that's got to be the loudest it's ever been. Now, I take that play and then another one that wasn't necessarily a play, but it's a fan favorite. No, people probably saw it and don't even know it's me or whatever. Earlier in that game, we seniors were not going to lose that game. Miami are bullies, just being honest. They're bullies. And we were tired of being bullied. At least I was. So in that game, Peter Tom Willis throws an interception. So I've never played defense in my life, and I probably wouldn't have made the tackle, just being honest. But they intercept the ball. They're running it back. Bernard Clark, Tiger Clark, I think he's the head coach he's the head coach at FCS school. But anyway, he played linebacker, All-American. Clearly shows him on the video clipping me, okay? He gets up, and you see him talking trash to me, knee all in my back. And I'm looking, I see the referee throw the flag on him. He doesn't see it. Now, I have an out-of-body experience. I ain't gonna lie. I had an out-of-body experience. I get up. I'm tired of being bullied. I walk over and I pick the flag up. And I walk and I catch up with him before he gets to his sideline. He's taking his helmet off. I slap the flag on top of his bald head. Hey, dude, when you see it on video, he turns around like he wants to kill me. But, I'm cool and collected. I put it on his head and I walk off. I ain't scared, you know? So they throw a 15-yard flag on me. I all of a sudden think in my head, what did I just do? Leon Searcy, who played for the Jaguars, big, tall lineman, walks up to me, talking smack. Unfortunately, he was so tall, I didn't really hit him in the neck. I hit him kind of in the chest area, but I kind of punched, pushed him a little bit. They throw another flag on me. I'm like, oh my God. I get to the sideline. Coach Bowden says, hey, buddy, uh, what were you thinking? I said, Coach, I wasn't thinking. But in my mind, I was hell bent on being, hey, our team wasn't going to be bullied. And I think that sent a message, though. I really do. You know, now, unfortunately, Coach Bowden benched me for the whole third quarter. But you know what I say after that? I still have 142 yards rushing in three quarters. But hey, we ended up beating them 24-10. And you know what? We stopped that whipping that they were giving us. And they ended up winning the national championship because Notre Dame lost later in the year. But nonetheless, man, that touchdown in 1989 probably was my favorite play. If I had to pick one, that will probably be it. And you asked me something earlier about Coach Bowden and just the Christian that he is. And is there anything that stood uh, out over the course of my 4 years? You know, he's what you see is always what you get. I had a lot of people ask, is is he really like that? He really is. He is like that. He remembers names. He remembers you. Might forget names sometime, but he just always have been that guy that we entrusted. And he gained a lot of trust in me because when you have kids from different backgrounds, nationalities, colors, come to Florida State, um, everybody went to different churches. Everybody has maybe different beliefs. But one thing that he did is he took us to in preseason, took us to majority black church, then a majority white church. So nobody will feel uncomfortable, but you also get a chance to see how other people's faith and how they lived, and how they had church service. And I respect him for that because a lot of people may not have even grown up going to church, and some did, but they never got a perspective of somebody else's. So that there meant a lot to me.
I want to stay on Florida State for a little minute before we transition to your time in the league. After your career, you had a time, opportunity later on to come back and coach under Coach Bowden. What was it like transitioning from being a player up under him and then, coaching on the side of him?
Surreal because one, I never thought that I would have gotten an opportunity to coach on the next level. That was not my goal, but I remember when Coach Bowden, I can't remember the records exactly, but there was a stretch where we were winning 8 games. Maybe one year it was 7. Now that doesn't seem like a lot of losses, but in Florida State history, you can't let that become the norm. And being honest, it wasn't Mickey Andrews' fault. It wasn't um, Chuck Amado's. It wasn't those great defensive coaches. They were doing their job. Offense couldn't score. And Coach Bowden literally had to make a decision, and well, you didn't get a chance to play for him, but Coach Bowden is loyal, sometimes to a fault. And I think to the fault was the stagnation that the offense had gotten. He, he wanted to believe that it was going to get better. But that's probably the first time from a coaching perspective that he had to probably do something he didn't want to do. And one of the positions was his son, but he got rid of the entire offensive staff. And Jimbo came into the picture because I remember when I was a player at Florida State, I remember seeing Jimbo at we were always in New Year's Day bowls, which back then was college football playoffs. And I remember Jimbo used to be at our practices that week because he played quarterback at Samford for Terry Bowden. So I guess when the season was over, Terry would come. Jimbo wanted to coach in the future, so he would come. So he came and he was around. And then when he finished playing, he became the quarterbacks coach for Terry at Samford. Then when Terry went to Auburn, he took Jimbo with him. So I mentioned all that to say this: coaching for Coach Bowden, he brought me in when he brought Jimbo in and the new staff, but I was the only one that didn't have a relationship with Jimbo. But Coach Bowden hired me because he told me before he hired me, he said, "I'm bringing you in because of the person that I know you are, and I believe you will have the impact I want my coach to have on these running backs and other players." So he didn't ask me where I've coached. He didn't ask me if I coached on the college level. He didn't coach me if I asked me if I coached on the high school level. He just said, "I believe in you and the impact you can have on these kids." And he brought me in. And I don't think there's another man that would do that. I'm sure there is, but that just explains the type of man Coach Bowden was. To bring in somebody on a Power Five level that um, one exemplified what he wanted of a kid that can come through the program and play at the highest level and won a Super Bowl, so that does mean a lot on the and and in my opinion was the consummate student athlete. So I think he hired the right person. So uh that was just a great one experience that only could have happened through a man such as Bobby Bowden, and bringing a young man like Dexter Carter in, to be a part of the Florida State Seminole family, in addition to what I had already done as a Florida State Seminole.
And of course, after your playing career at Florida State, on the fast forward to your NFL career, you had the opportunity to go get drafted in the first round by the 49ers. You walked into a 49ers locker room that had just won back-to-back Super Bowls. As a rookie, how did being around veterans like Roger Craig, Jerry Rice, and Joe Montana set the standard professionally for you?
Running Lott, Steve Young. Oh my goodness. Um, I was in middle school when Joe Montana was playing with the 49ers. Just imagine how I felt. That's unbelievable to me. I grew up a Cowboy fan, so the first thing was you beat my Cowboys. I remember when that pass to the Dwight Clark. I didn't like you, but I loved you, man. Today, but yeah, it was surreal, man. One, I don't think that the book could have been written any better. One, playing for the 49ers, but getting drafted in the first round by the back-to-back Super Bowl champions who could have picked anybody they chose to pick. But I earned that opportunity. You hadn't asked me that question on everything in between the last game of Florida State and getting drafted. But as far as how it was when I walked into that locker room, it reminded me of Florida State, because when you walked into Florida State, you had one goal as a player. One, of course, to be the best student that you could be, but to carry on what that spirit represents on that helmet. The way you work, how you work, the teammates you were, how you pushed each other, whether you first, second, or third team, you accepted that role, but you worked as if you were the starter. So when you get that opportunity, you fell right in line. And that's the way it was at San Francisco. I saw our Super Bowl ring had winning with class on it. That's what I felt about Florida State. You win with class. Now, Coach Bowden allowed you, and he started with Dion. Um, Terrell Buckley carried it on. I wasn't so flashy, but he allowed you to be yourself long as you did it within the confines of not putting the team in a bad situation. And San Francisco, they were straight class. Uh, People don't usually believe it, but we were so focused on Super Bowl was the only thing on our minds. When you see Jerry Rice catch a ball, a slant, a 5, 6, 7 yard play, and he takes it 80 yards, then you see John Taylor. He's on the backside of that play, but he's running 50 plus. Everybody's doing it. Now, linemen obviously didn't go that far, but they would finish the play. Um, I was like, man, this is how we did at Florida State. I mean, the effort was unquestionable. Whether you were the scout team or whether you were a starter, there was a way in which you went about your business. That's why they were winning divisional championships and conference championships and Super Bowls. But I fell right in line. Now, it was hard when I catching Joe Montana's first pass or two. I can't recall. Now, I don't drop passes now. I don't drop passes. I can't recall if I dropped that first one or not because it was like, oh my God, Joe Montana's throwing me the ball. But that's the feeling I had. It was just unbelievable that I was playing with Joe Montana. But once you step in that locker room and you realize the business and professional side of it, all that was put aside literally immediately because I had to rise to the occasion. I mean, just imagine I I led the team in rushing. Roger Craig was the starter, but he got hurt around game 4 or whatever, and I started from game 5 to 10 or 11. So I led the team in rushing just by starting those games. So I didn't have time to look overwhelmed or uh, you know, be starstruck. I had to be who I know I am so I could be what I needed to be to Joe Montana in that offense. So yeah, it was totally surreal being in that locker room with guys that I saw play when I was a middle schooler. It was awesome.
You talked about growing up a Cowboys fan, and you had a full circle moment in 1994 when you guys had the opportunity to play the Cowboys in NFC Championship. You had a big game. You guys ended up, coming out of that game on top. Kind of walk me through that game, scoring a touchdown in that game against your favorite team growing up, and getting your team to the Super Bowl. Walk me through that.
Well, uh, I'm gonna get to that, but I have to tell you, we were Dallas. I say they took more Super Bowl rings off my finger because we went to the NFC Championship game literally 3, 4 years in a row against them. So I had already lost to them, I believe, 2 straight years. So by then I had grown to hate them. you know, by the time that we in '94 when we got Dion in and we played them, it was a straight rivalry. Ironically, Jimmy Johnson, same rivalry we had, Florida State, Miami. He takes his butt from Miami and goes to Dallas and become my nemesis again. You know, so it was that kind of rivalry. By that time, the love for Dallas had gone. you know, but having a chance to play in that game of any sort, um, uh, was big for me. My mom had become a 49er fan by that time. She wasn't liking the Cowboys. She couldn't understand why they hit me so hard. She was like, that boy didn't have to hit you that hard. I'm like, Mom, come on. But she's always done that. That's my mom. Just the game in general was a big moment because my rookie year, we were 3 seconds away from going to a three-peat, going to the Super Bowl, and the Giants kicked the field goal to beat us. So as a rookie, the confetti didn't fall, but the champagne, the shirts, the hats were still in the locker room when I went in there. So that was I'm not lying. It was emotionally, it took me literally years to get over that because I was so close. And you still see the remnants of people thought you had won the game and they didn't get the stuff out of the locker room in time. And then let's say I was 4 NFC championship games before we won the Super Bowl. So I was so businesslike at that point. I couldn't think, oh man, it's Dallas and the success I had in this game and what rushes I had and touchdowns or whatever didn't really matter against Dallas because I've been so close so many times. Now we had to get the prize. We had to get the prize. And we were able to go to the Super Bowl and beat a San Diego team that really, being honest, halftime we knew it was over, you know. But hey, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Man, one of my dogs, he always says, man, no matter what goes on in life, nobody can take away from you the fact that you're a champion. What does it mean to know every day, regardless of what goes on, you a champion? not only on paper, but it's in your DNA. It's different to be a champion. Wired differently. Like just champions are wired
It,
differently.
absolutely. And for me, and I've never said this publicly or anything, but no matter whether you are a free agent, your value matters. Whether you're a late round pick, middle round pick, your value matters. Whether you play 1 year or 15. Now there's a difference there, 1 year and 15, but nonetheless, you did something that very few that even play the sport get a chance to do. Super Bowl, even the ones that play, the majority don't get there or win the Super Bowl. But I take pride in my entire journey because one, can't ever take that Super Bowl away from me. You can't take away from me that I was a first round pick. You can't take away from me that I made the fifth anniversary all time 49er team as a return specialist. You can't take away from me, the success I had, in college and running the 4.3 at the combine and being offensive MVP for the South team in the Senior Bowl. I mention all of that because every steps lead to the next step. You can't rely on what you've done to get you where you've been. And that's the way that I've lived my life. The faith is the substance of things hoped for, but faith without works is dead. But I take pride that Super Bowl. I take pride in it because I remember I opened I still get fan mail today. I got a pack up. I got hundreds that I need to sign still that come every single day. And that gives me a sense of pride and honor that people even still care. People out of the country, people in the country, military people, people that just has ordinary lives, but it means something to them. And it puts in perspective what I'm going to tell you. I know you asked me about Super Bowl and what it means. Yeah, I won a Super Bowl, but there's still people out there who hadn't done half of what I've done, who work at a job that people can't see what they do, good or bad, so they can't be judged. So we that are in the public eye, we're gonna be criticized. I still get criticized now, and I'm 58 years old, but I'm still even more prideful of what I've accomplished because people, I've had one person or I've read it somewhere where, people, and I don't see how you can even use the word in the sentence of anybody who has accomplished anything, whether it's at the highest level or just played a year or two. You're not a bust. You don't suck. You accomplished something many people have never accomplished. And and I'm not sure if they use the word bust because I don't know if they expect every first round pick to be a Hall of Famer or what. I don't really know. All I know is the 49ers drafted me in the first round not to take Roger Craig or be the heir apparent to Roger Craig. They brought me in to take punt return from John Taylor and be their kick return guy. I think being the 50th anniversary all-time player in that position, I think I accomplished what they drafted me for. Anything else was a bonus. The leading team has a rusher in my rookie year, being second my sophomore year. I'm 4 years of carry in my career. I think one, I'm trying to create a synopsis of answering your question, because the Super Bowl, I wish it defined me, but it really doesn't. But I'm very, very proud of that accomplishment because the majority of the people that play don't even win one. So yes, it means a lot to me. But that all-time team ring, commemorative ring that I got, that Joe Montana got because he's the quarterback on the team, Jerry got because he's the receiver on the team. That's something that individually I won. And that's not to minimize the Super Bowl again. But trust me, it all means something special to me. And I'll never, ever forget it. And all of that work was to make my kids that weren't even born when I won the Super Bowl, that they could one day be proud of me and endure maybe all the negative things or some of the negative things that they may hear in their journey. Because I don't know if your kids have experienced it, but you know what? It's unfortunately it happens. especially when my kids got to go to every grade, no matter where we move, people find out that their dad's Dexter Carter. 90% of it is great, but you're going to have 10% of the people that have something negative to say, you know. But so I'm going to tell you, I have lived my life. I'm thankful I won the Super Bowl, had the experience that I had in the NFL for 7 years, the experience I had at Florida State, the coaching, the playing, the track, everything. I did it all. So one day, the kids that I did not have at that time will be proud of me. And I still hope that today. So I hope I answered your question. I know I went around it, but hopefully that did.
Yeah, no, you definitely answered it. I did want to ask you with your speed and versatility, how do you think it would translate in today's wide open game in the NFL?
Oh, I kill it today. I killed today because back then they did not put me in a position to create mixed matches. Yes, I went against linebackers. They would split me out and I would go against safeties. But today, the way they do things today, the type of offense, the passing offense, the way, and I think about Norvell when he was definitely at Memphis. And hopefully he'll do a lot of that this year as him and Tim Harris, jointly, create these awesome plays for the talent that we have at our skill positions. But there was a running back that played for the Cowboys, and I can't remember his name, but he played at Memphis State. And Norvell used to play him as a running back and the slot. So what he would do, he knew how to take advantage of the skills of the players that he had in. And that's how I look at me. If I played today and I'm running a 4-3, and I already caught passes from Steve Young and Joe Montana, you know, if they exclusively put me out there in that slot, man, please, I'd have played for the New England Patriots and had 6 Super Bowls, because that's my skill set. I probably wouldn't have, just like then, I was a running back, and yes, a I backed Sammy Smith up for 3 years at running back, had my senior year to myself, and see what I did with it, so I thank God I played running back. But today, the way they can create mixed matches and the type of offenses that they run, and my ability to run pass routes and the ability to catch, and I ran a 4-3, which I think I've said numerous times. I would fit in any system today, and have the opportunity to succeed.
In 1996, due to a mid-season release by the Jets and an immediate signing by the 49ers, you became the first person in NFL history to play 17 games in a 16-game season. The season is already grueling along by itself. Kind of walk us through that process, dealing with it mentally, but also the physical toll that it takes on you having to adjust so quickly.
Believe it or not, the physical or the mental wasn't even an issue. I was a free agent after the Super Bowl year, so I had a chance to. The top teams was the Broncos, because Mike Shanahan was our offensive coordinator in the Super Bowl. He became the head coach with the Broncos, and that's who, in hindsight, uh, I probably should have went to, because he wanted me to come there and be their third down guy. And the only problem that I had was, and I'm gonna get to the 17 games, but the problem I had was they had Glenn Mirburn, and Glenn Mirburn was similar to me, played at Stanford. I mean, a really, really good player. But what I learned through my life experience, and what I learned from that experience, is life's about relationships, whether it's coaching, whether it's jobs of any sort. Mike Holgram was my relationship. And Mike told me, he had just got there about 2 weeks prior to, and he said, I'm going to have you, do a lot of third down stuff, and be our kick and punt return guy. I was excited about it. I was going to be a Bronco. Um, but I knew Glenn Mirburn was there, and he told me, he said, um, I just got here. Nobody knows it, but I'm going to trade Glenn Mirren because I want you. I've worked with you, so I know what you can do. Um, uh, Again, life's about relationships. Trust those that you have worked with because the crumbs lead to similar uh, experiences. And I was cool. Then I walked down the hallway and I met with the director of football operations or something. He's been there. He tells me something totally different. He tells me we're gonna have you do kick returns and that's it. Glenn's gonna do everything else. And I'm like, okay, but Mike's my guy. Then I go down in the locker room and childhood friend, we grew up 30 minutes apart in South Georgia, Shannon Short. And I tell Shannon, because I'm worried. I'm like, hey, I mean, hey, this is why I want to come. Mike, da 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 da. Mike Shanahan told me this because he's my guy. And simply put, Shannon said this. He said, where did Glenn Mirren go to school? I said, Stanford. He said, where did John Elway go? I said, Stanford. He said, John Elway is not letting Glenn Mirren walk out of this place. So I'm like, oh my God, he's been here. John Elway is a legend. I know what my guy told me. So I get on a plane. I go straight to New York. Rich Kotite tells me something totally different. He says, I'm going to be their guy, da, 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 da. So I sign with them. 2 weeks later, guess what? Mike Shanahan trades Glenn Mirren. He did exactly. That's why I tell my kids, trust in the relationships that you've developed. People are going to want to work with whom they feel comfortable with and have worked with before. Whether you like it or not, it is who it is. It is how it is. So anyway, I go to New York. And you remember the baseball? I told you I had a baseball experience
Yep.
in the NFL.
Mhm.
Well, I was friends with Gary Sheffield. Gary Sheffield, we both lived in Fort Lauderdale. I lived there during the off season. He lived there playing with the Florida Marlins. So I used to go to the batting cage with him. He was impressed. He said, Dex, man, you need to come. You need to come to one of our tryouts. So I signed with the Jets. 3 weeks after I signed with the Jets, I'm batting cage, whatever. He tells me to go try out. So I go try out. 5 minutes into the workout, a ball hits the tip of my finger and breaks my finger. Now I gotta call the Jets and say, hey, I didn't tell you this, but hey. So I fly to New York, they do surgery on it. So that whole year, I'm not gonna lie, it was cold as heck. And I had I, I think I had 7 fumbles. I did not lose them all, but and I've never made this excuse. But that cold, the knuckle wasn't quite healed with the 2 screws in it. Hey, I didn't lose all 7 fumbles, but they were mostly on muffs on punt return, you know. But it is what it is. It affected me. So week 10, they released me. The 49ers had already had their bye week. So I immediately signed with them. I got released, I think, on Sunday. I signed with the 49ers, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. And that Sunday I played in the game. So it worked out for me. So I played another 2 years with the 49ers and there goes my 7 years that I was blessed to have.
Many athletes struggle with identity once they're no longer playing the game. What was the process like for you finding yourself once football was no longer a part of your life as a player?
I struggled big time too. I struggled because afterwards, the experience I had um, with degrees, literally 100% of the time was people thought you don't need to work, have to work, or want to work. Really, I didn't see how that was relevant. If I've got the qualifications to start out in an entry level position and work my way up, what's the issue? But a lot of people have the issue of not the fact that, oh, he played athletics to the highest on the highest level. So all those skills and things that you can take from the field and use in real world business, they didn't look at it that way. They looked at it as, you don't want to work, need to work, or have to work. Or in my experience, I felt they felt threatened. Not the fact of where I started, but where I could potentially end up. And that could mean finding favor because one, who I was, number two, how I worked, and number three, jumping over them. So that's the experience I had. So um I tell you, so I had issues and I wanted to work. I grew up in South Georgia. I'm thankful to have a career that I had. Um, Thankfully I had some, money saved. But at the end of the day, if you're not making money, money's going out but not coming in, it's hard to continue the lifestyle. So I could see how depression could set in because it set in with me. I could imagine how some people could, um, unfortunately, and hey, gotta be honest and be truthful with it. Some people,
They good.
I could, I could see how some people take the worst case step to alleviate the pain that they feel and that they're suffering through. And I'm gonna be honest, I never ever had the thought, no matter how bad it got, I never had the thought of taking my life, but I could understand how some people could have that thought or even do it because of the pressures that come with not being able to find yourself. And I'm gonna tell you the 100% reason why it never crossed my mind, and it was a conscious, I believe it was a conscious block by me, and that was because Dexter Jr. was he was born 2 years. Let's see, I retired in 97. 96 is my last season. Dex Jr. was born in 97. Dex Jr. has always, especially those first 10 years, was my why. My mom has always been my why. Dex Jr. was my reason to never think and let those thoughts I was having seep into the reality of my life. It gave me purpose to keep continuing to put one foot in front of the other and do what I tell my kids, whether it's in school or whether it's in life, figure it out. Figure it out. There's not a template, but you got to figure it out. Be ready for the opportunity. Sometimes you got to create the opportunity, but never ever give up because a lot of people walk by you with their hands out to help you up. But as they're doing it, they're keep walking. So if you don't attempt to help yourself, they're going to move on. And I just utilize that in my own life. And my life today is totally different than a certain facet of my life while I was even raising my kids. So I'm so thankful God never gave up on me and I didn't give up on myself. And I kept believing what my mom has always told me: faith without works is dead. And don't let an opportunity arrive and you're not ready for it. So I could see how a lot of players, um, unfortunately, have taken the wrong decision step in dealing with life after football. But it's hard because once you play professional sports, whether it's 1 year or 14 years, people would never look at you the same. They're going to think that, oh, you play in the NFL. So they always have an assumption and a standard that is really unfair.
No, without a doubt. It's definitely a real conversation for sure. And it's kind of the same for me. I went through my phase of depression where I was, living as reckless as possible, and part of me wanted to die. But then when my daughter, I found out I was having a daughter. It was a switch that flipped for me. It's like I got something to live for. I got purpose. Before then, I felt like I didn't really have a purpose, whether I was working a job or not. It was like, man, I feel like I don't have a purpose anymore. So I can understand, that decision. But for every person, one thing I always said, man, is every day waking up and trying to fight for that 10%, because that was always a side of me that felt like, regardless of things that didn't happen for me, That was a part of me that wanted to believe that I could still go on and do great things in this world, because football wasn't my purpose when I was born into this world. It just gave me the platform to walk in my purpose. So fighting for that 10% every day for somebody that may be struggling with their mental health. God has placed gifts on each and every one of us. Your gift not gonna look like mine not gonna look like yours. So don't get caught up on social media watching what they doing.
That's
Run
right.
your race, and ultimately, run your race at your pace. Hey, may look like they
Absolutely.
got it fast. But just because they got it fast don't mean that it's gonna last. Like, the process
Absolutely.
is meant to build you and prepare you to endure the journey. The process we're talking about, the legacy of greatness, is meant to build champions, is build winners. So trust the process. Everything that you're going through is meant to build you and shape you for the journey. You just can't give up before you get to that destination. You got to finish the race. I'm always thinking back to that race. It's a famous race where a guy, I think he tore his hamstring in the race, and then his father, like, thank of Father's Day, and his father,
Yes.
and he helped him finish the race. He
The
could have,
Olympics. Yep.
could have easily quit and gave up, but that just made me think of life. Like, some things aren't gonna go our way. Everything could just be gelling today. You got your dream job, finances good, relationship great, and then tomorrow you just get hit with a curveball that you didn't expect.
That's
Are you
right.
gonna finish
That's
the race?
yep. You're absolutely right. That's why I've learned, and again, just learned it from my mom, just watching, you know, no matter who you meet, yeah, you want to be respected now and you want to make people respect you, but treat everyone that you meet with respect. And because you never know in life what's going to happen, So you said a lot of inspirational things, man. Keep preaching that and be an inspiration, to others, because you never know who, you're going to impact.
Yes, sir. I definitely want to get into the recruiting journey of all your children. Playing at Florida State and building the legacy that you have. Sometimes the fans on the outside looking in like, oh, we automatically got this kid. He's a legacy. How do you approach the situation when your kids are in the recruitment process?
I approached Devin's different than I did with Dexter Jr. Um, uh, because it with Dex Jr. it was, you know, all my kids went to Florida State. Devin was born m- months before I got the Florida State job, so he during my coaching career there, Devin ran around that field. Jalen was born in Tallahassee when I coached. Dex Jr. was uh 8 or 9 uh at the time. And my girls were in between there. But Dex Jr. as Devin grew up going to Florida State games, going to spring games, etc. So he was Seminole in and out. Unfortunately, although he was a top player in the country, you know, just so people can have a timeline, Dex Jr. was uh, 2014 or 15 class out of high school at the Bow School in Florida. And he was ranked one spot at number 32 behind Lamar Jackson as a senior. And so he had many Power Five offers, but he wanted Florida State. And this is what changed how I looked at recruiting when it came to Devin, because Dexter wanted to go to Florida State. And to make a long story short, he was, that's why you have to be careful as a coach, what you say to a kid, what you promise a kid, um, and just overall how you recruit him, especially a legacy kid. And Dexter's junior year, he was told, by Jimbo that, and the exact words, "I'm going to get you here, I promise." And uh, Dexter expected that. Unfortunately, Jimbo never offered, but Dexter expected it all the way up to signing day and ended up not signing with anyone. And I'm not going to go into those details, but let's just say what a coach tells a kid impacts a kid, especially a legacy kid. And that changed my thought on, not my love for Florida State, but um, whether I wanted my kids to follow my exact journey. It worked for me, but but the guy that got me to Florida State was no longer there. And in my opinion, if he'd have told me something, I could have believed his word. Um, Jimbo's word was not what he told my son and me. I witnessed it. And but he waited for it. And I regretted it for years because I was mad at myself because I didn't at some point step in and say, hey, Dexter, it ain't happening. Auburn is still there. North Carolina's still there. Wisconsin's still there. Pick one of the schools. But you know what? He waited because of the legacy. And he believed in Florida State. And unfortunately, he was let down. And it totally changed the trajectory of what I felt like was an NFL career. But I'm still proud of him. He's doing wonderful things in Jacksonville, Florida right now. But when years later, when Devin came around, again, Devin was going to camps at Florida State from the time he was young. And so we saw the Taggart era, we saw the Jimbo era, we saw the Novell era, but he didn't start going to camp, and obviously he was young. He wasn't, that old enough to go back then, but he went to the Novell camps. So he grew with Novell. And again, I remember his freshman year, he went into ninth grade with 4 or 5 Power 5 offers. Now, offers ain't worth nothing unless it's on paper. But nonetheless, Florida State was one of those. And I believe Norvell is more of he's more of 2023, in my opinion, than he is of the most recent years. If you're a coach that's already shown that you can win, and if Jordan Travis didn't get hurt, who knows? We could have had another national championship. I don't think the team should have been docked or punished because one player, regardless of position, got hurt. That's just they might have got blew out. Who cares? But at least you don't take the opportunity for them. But anyway, that's the Novell that Devin believes in. But even though we believe in Norvell, and Devin committed to Florida State as a freshman, um, uh, I didn't really endorse that commitment because I had already told Devin what the process was going to be. And the process was, we are going to see this recruiting process through, meaning that if a team is interested in you and they've either offered or planning to offer, I'm going to make sure that you see that campus, you sit in meetings, you see them coach on the field, you see their demeanor, you see everything. Because when you arrive on a campus, I don't want the first few months or spring to go bad. And then you say, oh, I want to leave. No, because I took you to all these places. You met with these coaches, you saw them in their element, you talked to players that they coach. So when he committed to Florida State, I totally understand it. Now, he shocked me. We didn't go there intending that. I was at lunch. He was still on campus. He texts me and says, Dad, what do you think if I commit? He's not, I'm at lunch by myself. He's on campus with a teammate from high school that he took with him. And this is my look as I'm looking at my text. What? And I asked him why. He told me why. And I understood. He said, he told me how he felt about Novell, which I knew. Novell, through the whole 4 years of recruiting, never changed. He earned Devin's second commitment. He was the same man day one that he was 4 years later. So Novell recruited the way he should recruit. He should be proud of the way he recruited Devin. He made it about Devin. It wasn't about me. He did it without making me feel like I was worthless. You know what I'm saying? But because it wasn't about me, but you have to take the legacy under consideration. He did it in a way to where he didn't devalue me, but valued Devin. So when he committed, I told Coach Norvell, I said, I told him a few things of the reason why Devin committed, because there were some things. And what happened is, and it wasn't Norvell. I think the Florida State in general recruited Devin as a legacy. I'm sorry, they treated him as a legacy, which means when we stepped on campus, he could go where he wanted. Nobody really met with him. The Norvell did, but he like just being honest. And it's nothing against any coach, but um, he didn't really meet with the receiver coach, and I don't think it was a unintentional. Oh, I'm not gonna meet with him. I think it was Devin knows his way around. He he knows us, so I mean he never went on a campus tour. So so what I did, being honest, I kind of did a cheat sheet. We had already been to Florida State quite a number of times. This particular trip, I did call him up. I did, and I told him, I said, hey guys, you got to treat him like a recruit and not a legacy kid because he's not getting the same treatment. Y'all, it's not like y'all mean it negatively, but he's not seeing the facility like a recruit. He's going through the facility like it's home. And when I told them that, they changed it. We went on a tour of the school. And Gerald Ross he's been wonderful every trip. He's our lead guy. He took us on the campus tour, had a sit down with Dugans. I mean, it was like we were getting at these other schools. Now, I wanted him to get it, but I didn't know he was going to commit. But it made him feel like, oh, okay, this is home. And he told me, and I was like, okay, I understand those reasons. And if you want to commit, I support you, but we're still gonna follow the recruiting process through. So I called Coach Norvell, we sat down with him and he committed and everybody was happy. We continued to go on these trips. And I mean, when I say we went, my brother, there was one 28-day trip in April going into his senior year where we went. Now, this is consecutively. We only stayed overnight in 2 or 3 places. Other than that, me and my partner, his stepmom, we literally drove. We hit Louisville, Kentucky, Miami, Tallahassee, LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Did I say Miami? I said Miami.
Yeah, you said Miami.
Notre Dame, Ohio State, literally in 28 consecutive days. Now, imagine now we've been going on recruiting trips all these other years, all these other months, doing for games. But for this 28-day period, we went to every one of these schools. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to lie, it was exhausting. But it was coming down to the decision. I think Devin had already decommitted by that time. He had already decommitted. And I told him one thing. I told him what I told Dexter, because Dexter, the last 2 weeks were committed. He was committed to Georgia Southern and then decided he didn't want to go there. And he was hoping Florida State would come back within those 2 weeks. So he decommitted. I had him do what I told Dexter. I said, you need to be a man. You need to call that coach up and you need to tell him that you're going to decommit. Be a man of and he did it. And I respect him. The call with Dex Jr. went totally different than it did with uh, uh, Devin and Norvell. Which made me lose respect for, a certain coach on how he talked to Dexter Jr. when Dexter decommitted, from him. That was bad. Again, it taught me a lesson in the future, but Norvell handled it totally different. He would have liked for Devin to stay committed, but he did not take it personal. And what he did is he continued recruiting Devin through the process. And that's why at the very end, after he committed to Auburn, then decommitted from Auburn, because we knew and had been told by, certain people in the Auburn surroundings that Freeze was not going to be there. So he decommitted, and at the end of the day, Devin knew he wanted to be home at Florida State. And once he made that decision, we never wavered because Norvell was the same dude 4 years earlier that he was when Devin decommitted and when he recommitted. And Coach Norvell earned Devin's commitment to attend Florida State University.
I wanted to ask you, being through this process as a player and now seeing how it's shifted with the NIL and the transfer portal, and being a mentor and a leader for your kids, what's a piece of advice that you give to parents trying to navigate this space of NIL and the transfer portal and the hype surrounding it?
See, and people they mention NIL, but the revenue sharing is important now because there's revenue share and then there's NIL. Every player that gets revenue share don't get NIL. The majority of players don't even get an NIL deal. They're talking about this NIL and all this. That's not even, I mean, the 21 million dollars that teams allocate out of the billions of dollars that they make annually, revenue share off of football, not these non-revenue share sports. The revenue share, they only have to share on the low end of $20 million with these kids. They're still making the majority of the billions for themselves.
Yeah, so we're talking about
The NIL revenue share.
NIL, the advice that you have for parents navigating the NIL and the transfer portal with so much hype being around it today.
Yes, I wish I could talk to all the parents because that 137-page document, which is the judge's order of the lay of the land, because I've tried to communicate with the AD. I've tried to communicate in general because I'm sure they didn't like hearing from me through this process. And I'm speaking of Florida State and all the schools because, one, that 137 page, this is how you do things. These schools are not abiding by the guidelines. And I had my discussion with them, or I attempted to, but really none of them wanted to hear me because they don't want to hear what they are not supposed to do. And even the money that they do give these kids, and I'm just talking about all of them. I don't care who it is. The bottom line is, you've got Congress, the government, Nick Saban, all of these people wanting to say what these kids should not have and what they're not entitled to. For years, college football has generated billions of dollars from the revenue they get from TV deals, money that football players just have been told, well, student athletes in general have just been told, you should be happy with your scholarship. Well, first of all, football has always generated the majority of the money. The current system, which entitles these athletes to get paid, now all athletes are getting paid something. These non-revenue sports that don't generate this money, at least they're making something. But you want the football players who generate the majority of this money, who have provided for coaches to make millions of dollars for years with no complaints from anybody. Now players in football, people are complaining about the money and the share of the revenue that they are entitled to. Now, I have a real problem with that because, one, tennis, golf, baseball, basketball, even though it's 50% black, never had a problem with tennis going pro in high school, golf making money at a young age. Nothing. But it's a problem when players that look like us are getting part of the pie. Now, it doesn't matter what these players, just being real, do with their money. That's a big complaint of, oh, they don't know how to manage money. Then you know what? Why don't you create a plan to teach them what high schools don't teach anymore? They don't teach finances. They don't teach how to even write go through the process of opening a checking account, writing a check, etc. Then why don't you do it? If you got a problem with that part, then do it. But as far as what they make, put it into a trust. If you don't trust where the money is gonna do, do put their money in a trust. But to sit and say what's unfair, college sports is gonna be dead and non-revenue sports are not gonna exist anymore, that is far from the truth, and they know it. They just don't want football players making the majority of the money that they're entitled to. If they weren't making it, where's it gonna go? College coaches are going to get paid more. Presidents are going to get paid more. Chancellors are going to get paid more. ADs are going to get paid more. I got a problem with that. I may not be all intellectual and saying the right words and all of that stuff, but I'm not dumb and I'm not stupid. Nick Saban had no problem when he was making money off those players. He wasn't having a problem. He acts like players weren't getting paid. They were getting paid. That's why the SEC was in the position that they were. That's why they were producing the way that they were. Yes, Nick Saban, just like all coaches, it's their job to develop players. Yes, players were being developed, but Nick Saban was also paying these players a certain amount that really was not legal anyway. So he can sit and be honest. He offered Devin. I like the man as a coach, but at the end of the day, you know what? Don't try to be holier than thou as if you've never done anything that you weren't supposed to do. But when it comes to these players that you care so much about, making really a small share of the billions, it was only 20, 21.5 or something of that nature that was designated towards the sports. Football was making about 70, 75% of it, but they should. What's the problem? College sports isn't going anywhere. And matter of fact, they're not talking about like Florida State softball player, National Player of the Year. She gave Florida State everything that she could give them. National Player of the Year. She chose to go into the transfer portal. She took advantage of the opportunity, non-revenue sport. But you know what? She's taking advantage of her marketability. Nobody's talking about that. Every single player is not going to be what the best player is. It is just a fact. But don't fault that player for what the player who might be the last person technically that was recruited or the person on the roster. You know what? Hey, at least they're getting something. But thank the revenue sport that is creating this opportunity. Thank those players who are playing that revenue sport that is generating this opportunity. Instead of looking at it like, oh, it's going to kill college sports. No, it is not. Everybody thought because Colin Kaepernick took a knee, oh, I'm not watching NFL no more. NFL still got the fan base. Those same people still up in the stands, still paying to go to a game. I just have a problem with it, and I'm tired of keeping my mouth closed about it. I played the game. I deserve to speak on the game. The game has been great to me, and I dealt with the scholarship. I dealt with, oh, hey, be happy with the scholarship. Be happy with this and be happy with that. And I'm fine with that, but times change. That's why not just black players. I don't think black players should boycott and say, hey, I'm not going to any of these Southern schools. I think what they should be taught is what's going on in the current system. They should be taught how important their vote is. They should be taught what gerrymandering is. They should be taught what that means to their lives and their kids' lives. They should be taught what's going on in the political system because most kids aren't being taught. You know, I'm not going to tell these kids, oh, don't go make life better for you and your kids. You know, if they left now, what I do think should happen, I think all student athletes, All student athletes should say, you know what? We're not a union. We understand that. But they do understand their power. If every one of those kids said we're not starting the season, every one of them, black and white, I promise you they'll fix the system. And there are things that can be fixed. But trying to say these kids don't who generate the top amount of money don't deserve the top amount of the share is wrong. Fix it, but don't do it in a way to where, oh, these kids don't deserve it. No, that is absolutely wrong. We have been working a job way back when you were not born, when we were playing. Then when you were playing, we were retired. It's a job. What football goes through and what these student athletes have to endure, they deserve and earn what their share is. The court has stated what that is. And they're still trying to claw back some of this money from these kids with unreasonable fines for certain things. And you know what? They actually created a commission. I don't know if you know this. They created a commission, the judge did, that, for example, Devin's contract. I could take Devin's contract that before it's redlined, before we send it back and let them review it, they could tell you, oh, the schools can't put that in there. They can't put that in there. And you know what? There were things in that thing that shouldn't be in there, including Florida State's contract that couldn't be in there. But do you know why they're able to put it in there and fight to the end? To leave it in there, even though I fought and had some things, changed, is because that commission that the court put in place to oversee these contracts, not one Power Four team signed it to hold them accountable. Now they're abiding by the amount of money that they have to pay the kids, but they're not abiding by how they can claw back a certain amount of money from these kids. And when they claw it back for failing the test or from, there's so many things in there. I'm not going to go in detail, but it ain't just your favorite school. It's all of them. And what they're doing, if they have 21.5 million to go towards sports and 17 million go to football, and they are in the process of for punishing these kids for simple things, and they taking that money back, guess where that money goes? Back into the pot to other kids. So it looks like the kids are, really doing well. There's ways that these schools, all of them, are clawing back. A lot of these kids aren't seeing the full amount because that's why I said, you know what? If you go and do the things that you're supposed to do, show up to class, do the right things, go to treatment, because if you're late for treatment, they can find you. If you don't go to treatment, they can find you. It's simple things that they're taking this money back. But again, I still say you control as a player what they can take and what they can't take. If whether I agree with the rules or not, it's not fair, but that's what schools are doing. But I'm not happy with Nick Saban. I'm not happy with what they're trying to do. So most people are going to take what I'm saying and put zero credence to it. But at the end of the day, all I know is those players that are out there on the field, giving all that they've got, deserve to be compensated. Ain't nobody saying equally. Just give their fair share. So anyway.
Yeah, no, most systems and just in general in this world are built for one side to lose and one side to win, and ultimately the manipulation comes in to where they get so good at to where they give you a little bit or throw you a bone here. It makes you feel like you're winning when really they still hitting you across the head. Like for example, for people that don't really follow sports. In business, sometimes you have people that come in, they're like, oh, we can do this, that, and third for your business. He's like, all right, well, I was going to do that whether or not you came into the situation. and now they're leaning on what you already brought to the table, and it seems like they're doing you a favor, but really they're trying to benefit off of what you bring to the table, and they're hitting you across the head in the process. Same thing
Okay.
happens across everything. They're doing it to these athletes in sports. A guy may get $1 million, and he's like, "Man, I never seen $1 million before." But really, you're worth more than that, and they really pocketed more than under the table that you don't know about. So these conversations are definitely needed, not just for sports in general, but to prepare these people for life moving forward. Because that's how the world works. That's how business moves. So many people, businesses are built out for one side winning and the other side losing. And even if it seems like both sides are winning, that's the sleight of hand. That's the smoke and mirrors. One side is hitting you across the head and trying to make sure that they can profit as much as possible. It's not for some. It's not necessarily a malicious intent. Some it is, but it's just like with negotiations in the NFL. If a team can get you to sign for as little as possible, even if they like you, business they're gonna try to get you to sign for as little as possible.
Absolutely.
Well, that's just even in relationships, man. If you got a person you in a relationship with, you could be the nicest person in the world, and they may be good to you. But if they feel like they can get away with a few things, they gonna start to test those waters and try to see what all they can get away with. So I appreciate you having these conversations to educate people about this process because a lot of people just don't know. And you don't know what you don't. Sometimes people don't know that they don't know. So educating about this stuff so that they can be aware and know what to look out for, so that they don't become a victim in these situations. Because I do believe, eventually, as long as these conversations continue to happen, people continue to put their foot down instead of just being happy that it's better than what it used to be. Things will continue to get driven forward, and ultimately athletes will be where they need to be. Like you said, it started off, oh, you should be happy with a scholarship. Now it's going, oh, you should just be happy getting paid. It's like, well, I'm the type of person, I don't care if I'm getting $1 million. If I earn 10 million, give me all my 10 million. Give me every
Absolutely.
dollar. I don't care
Absolutely.
about if it's a penny. Like I need that penny. I earned that. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
because
And I say, you know what? Everybody has a gift. Um, be it large, small, be it lucrative or not. Everybody has talents. If you don't have the talent to play football, but you have a talent to be a postal person, you're not going to make what this person over here makes, So don't criticize this person for being in that field. So I'm not saying that I have the 100% lock and key of how the system should be, but it's just interesting is nobody talks about sports that are majority that look like us. It's a problem with those sports. It ain't a problem with everybody else. Nobody's saying how these other sports are really doing much better than they were before. They're able to profit. Like I said, this National Player of the Year in softball, she could not have done what she's doing if it wasn't for the current system. She can't be on the same level as the quarterback on the football team. It's just a simple, if you took a pie and you literally put exactly the amount of money that is generated by college sports, then what football generates of that, and saw the reality, if you take players that look like me out of it, nobody have a problem, in my opinion. My opinion. And I don't have a problem with black and white. Hell, my family is universal. They look like what America should look like. But I also know what's behind, these congressional meetings and all of that. It's not fair what they're trying to do. And you know what? I really believe it's a worst case scenario. But if every athlete in general did not participate in their sports, I promise you it wouldn't take but a short period of time for them to bring some of these, you know how teams have leadership council? It's they put these players, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, in position because of their um, leadership roles. Bring them to the table. Allow them to speak, have some say so, or retired players or something. But just don't sit there and make rules for them and that impact them, but you don't want to include them in on the process. That makes no sense to me. So I'm gonna speak loud and I'm gonna speak proud on it, because whatever decision they make, they're gonna ink it in the law, and that's what it's gonna be.
I appreciate you. I do want to get into a topic that came across on social media lately. It's been all over socials. You see the stuff with the USA flag and the guy Daryl Doucette. That's he's very vocal, very opinionated, and you see a lot of times him taking jabs at the NFL guys. Since he's one of the top in his field, kind of saying that they can't do what he does. And I wanted to get your thought process on that.
Well, the eye doesn't lie. Video doesn't lie. That's why, players can complain all day long about they should be first team, second team, third. The bottom line is film don't lie. Every play counts. That's why if I'm a coach, I'm videotaping everything. And you know what? Flag football has come a long ways, and I'm thankful. I'm happy that, one, these women can play flag football in high school and Little League, Pop Warner. I'm glad that they created some college sports for it. It creates an opportunity for them. I'm glad they have men flag football, and the success that they've had. But again, the bottom line is there are a lot of people. There's 113, I believe, Division I schools approximately. A lot of Division II, III NAIA schools. There's only, well, when I played, there was 30. I'm sorry, there was 25 NFL teams. Now I think there's 32. There's 54 players per team. You calculate that, and it's not a whole lot of players that can play in the NFL, okay, or don't make the NFL. Don't mean you're not a good player, but everybody ain't gonna make it, okay. Um, this player that's the flag football, I mean, he's really good. He's really good, and now it's opened up to where if an NFL player or a retired NFL player is good enough, they can try out. If they're good enough, they're going to show it. If they're not good enough, they're not going to make it. But every flag football uh, awesome player isn't good enough to play in the NFL. Now, if an NFL player current tries to make a flag football team, the film's not going to lie. Your eyes aren't going to lie. It's either he's good enough to make I don't know if it's a 10 player, how many players they have. It's either they're good enough or they're not. Is it possible that a flag player is a better flag player than a NFL player? Absolutely. Absolutely. But, let's not get it twisted. Let's not say, oh, a great flag player can play in the NFL today. No, he had his opportunity. He had his opportunity to go to college and play. And if he played, he had the opportunity to make an NFL team. Trust me, all these execs and director of player personnel and all the money that's at stake, just like they didn't draft Dexter Carter because they liked him over dinner. They didn't draft me in the first round because they liked me. No, no. Carmen Policy and John McVay, who were numerous times voted executives of the year, part of the 5 Super Bowls with the 49ers, they're not going to draft Dexter Carter because they like him. No, no. If you're good enough to make the NFL, you're going to make the NFL. I seen players in high school, college that I felt like were better than some players that I played with in the NFL. Now, it wasn't a lot of them, but I did have that feeling, say, dang, he was better than him. But a lot of it has to do with decisions that you make in life. A lot of it has to do with what was your work ethic? Yeah, you were a great athlete, but you didn't do what was necessary and needed to be impactful to your team or show the next level that you are worthy of playing on that level. So is his name, how you say it, House?
Yeah, I don't know how to say his nickname. I just go
Yeah.
by his last name, but I think it's either Hoosha House. I don't know.
Okay, Hoosha House, whatever his name is. I know I saw some talk where he was talking about RG3 coming out and he was trash pretty much. You know what? Maybe RG3 came out and wasn't that good. I mean, but I do know this. RG3 was that dude when he was in the NFL. So yeah, maybe he couldn't make the flag football team, but just cause House or Hoosha, whatever his name is good enough to be a great team that hopefully can lead our flag football team to a gold medal, great. But that don't make him able to play in the NFL. There's a whole lot of players that were great college players that just didn't make it. So, I'm surely not going to put him on the pedestal to say, oh, he could play in the NFL today. But I tell you what, I'd rather much have RG3's career than his career. And if you ask him behind the scenes, he'd probably much rather have RG3's. So let's not criticize RG3 because he's gone through a, a, a terrible knee injury and isn't what he once was. But he does have a right to go out and try. If he's not good enough, then good. He's not good enough, you know. But hey, I hope we have the best flag football team that we can have to go and try to win a gold when it's time, But no, I think everybody has their time. And if you don't take advantage of your junior or senior year when you are coming out of college to go pro, if if you don't take advantage of that moment, it's hard to get in the NFL. It is hard. And it's hard to get back into it. So, hey, everybody has their moments. For Dexter Carter, hey, I'm so thankful for the opportunity that I had because what my mom taught me and taking advantage of the moment and making sure I was ready for every opportunity is the only thing that allowed me to have the success and the career that I had.
I appreciate you, like, kind of going into that situation. I think me looking at it, it makes me respect NFL guys even more. Of course, having been the guy that was able to have my small taste of coffee in that league, but just we see so many guys that in shorts and shirts and shorts look all world like they're gonna end up being Hall of Famers. But the moment that those pads come on, everything changes. So the people that are able to process information, deal with the pressure when you know that you're about to get hit, that takes a different level of individual to get that accomplished. So I respect the way he's doing in flag, but regardless of what you felt like you missed out on because you didn't get to play at the levels that you should never disrespect these guys because you know that it's different across them lines.
Absolutely. You said it exactly what the facts are. So, that's why you do what you do, man. The intellect, the knowledge of the game, and taking advantage of your position, man. Not just this show, not just this particular episode, but what I've seen you do, man. You bring those things that need to be taught to the forefront, and this is no different.
Yes, sir. But I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, man. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. This whole entire episode, just for anybody that goes on to watch it, your passion. If I think of a father, man, passionate about their kids, fearless in leadership, patient. That's one thing I've learned with my daughter's patience. Ultimately, being able to guide them. We talked about legacy. What legacy do you want? Your children to follow in after you're gone. What do you want to leave behind for your children to follow in, and what lessons do you want that they can build upon? And just all throughout this episode, without you even having to say those words, it's been echoed throughout, from how you've led your children through the recruiting process, how you fought for these, not just your kids, but other kids throughout this process with NIL. Because your kids are going to see that, even though you're fighting for everybody across the country, they're going to see that and be like, I want to stand for something that's meaningful. So I appreciate you and the man that you're standing as a father, because one thing I realized with my daughters now, they're always watching. I got my youngest. Anytime I go to work out, she's like, Daddy, can I come? And I didn't even know she was paying attention. But now she's getting into sports. She's always paying attention. And then the other day I was in the car and she has her headphones on. And I looked through her phone, like literally every song I'm playing on the radio, she has downloaded in her phone. So they're watching everything that we're doing. So I appreciate you setting the right example for sure.
Absolutely. And take advantage of all these moments, because I'm going through another phase now. I got one more to get through high school, and my significant other, she has a daughter that's also in the 11th grade. So they're going into 12th grade. So we've got two more to go. We've got everybody else out. The biggest challenge that none of us really talk about is one, we have to release them at some point and they become their own individuals. And right now I see Devin at Florida State and, I'm so proud of his transition. And, every time I go up there, literally on the field, off the field, individuals that work for Florida State, um, I'm proud of the man that he is and that he shows and he exemplifies. It doesn't shock me, that what he did in the spring, going with the Warrens and making the ESPN top 100 newcomers list, and just everything that he's done academically, getting acknowledgement already, a couple times of his academic success or focus. But you got to let them go because they become their own individuals and they talk to you less. And it doesn't mean they don't love you, but they got their own, especially if they got a significant other, it even gets worse, so I'm adjusting to that, you know. That's why it means so much when I see him and how he answers questions and he addresses the legacy thing, and and he's proud of it. But he know, based on everything that I taught him, that one, legacy is part of the journey. Creating your own is an extension to my grandkids and my great grandkids one day, So I'm proud of that, and I know my son that's going to his senior year, you know. Hey, I'm so proud of him because he became one of the, going into his senior year, he's one of the top 25 hurlers in the country and never ran hurdles until his junior year. I see in him on how dad is becoming less important, not from a love perspective, but just the fact that they have their own lives and they have their own friends. I'm not going to sit and cry on this podcast because, my kids, I want to be around my kids more, you know, but it's, I think every parent goes through it, and it hurts a little, but it's what we raise them to do, to step out on their own, be independent, so they're doing exactly what I want. It's just I got to make sure I'm ready for it. That, so I got to get ready for some travel, you know, me and my partner. So, and we can do some things that we wanted to do now that the kids, are getting out. So, um, man, I'm proud that Florida State has been part of my journey. I'm glad the NFL has been part of my journey. I'm glad when it all ended and I had to really be tested and transition, and still be here today and take what I have learned and experienced my whole life to not just help my kids, but other kids that I may encounter through either coaching them or just advising them um, uh, along the way on their journey. So thank you for the opportunity to be on your show, my man.
Yes, sir. Much love. Appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, my man.